Throughout our lives, we encounter many things, some good and some bad, maybe even great or tragic. But once in a while, against all odds and with the stars aligning, something insane happens. Something that brings the farthest people together and divides those who are closest. An event which is seen by everyone and forgotten by few. Now, I'm sure we've all experienced at least one of these moments in our lives, and when everything's all said and done, it's easy to think to ourselves, wow, something like that will never happen again. In our last installment of this series, we covered the fantastic journey of Bluey in r/place, including the triumphs, drama, and emotion that ran throughout. Starting from her humble beginnings as a post on Reddit to her iconic finish, serving as a symbol of a growing yet successful fandom. And with this, our story had a pretty happy ending, as we all went back to our lives, satisfied with leaving our mark on internet history. But little did we all know, this wasn't the ending. Something new was coming, and sooner than we all could have imagined. Yeah, the whole r/place thing happened again. However, unlike the video I made last year, I knew I wouldn't have been able to complete this alone. So with that, I just want to give a special thanks to the folks at the Healer House Discord server for some major help. Jalen, Vex Shepherd, Ethernet Explorer, Theheroofdeath, Helgy, and Highr all helped make this fantastic documentation of the events covered here, which helped me out a lot. And because we have so much to cover this time, I thought it would be perfect to introduce a special guest to help us out. Okay, well actually this whole video was his idea kind of, but anyways, please give Pugly a warm welcome.
Hey buddies, very excited to discuss this awesome event with BB. I wasn't around for last year's r/place event since I only started making Bluey content at the start of this year, but there's a lot of fond memories and rather daunting ones as well to discuss on this year's timeline. But what makes all of them special is the amazing collaboration we were able to make with so many different individuals, so it felt fitting to discuss it by doing a collaboration with another talented creator here in the Bluey community.
Thank you. Also, one more thing. The document I used goes in Pacific Standard Time, so if the numbers and times differ from other documentations, that's pretty much why, and I apologize for the confusion. But anyways, here is the story of Bluey on r/place, 2023 edition. As I'm sure most of you already know, r/place is an event that takes place on the site Reddit, in which users can place a pixel on a large canvas every few minutes, with many often collaborating into groups based on nationalities, interests, and other things, leading to the creation of flags, memes, art, and various messages, including some that are incredible and some that are not very family friendly. This is the collective internet after all, and with the event being a major success in 2017 and in 2022, most people were expecting a sequel, but maybe in a few years or so. Yeah, that didn't happen at all, because the next year we got news of another event, and the excitement wasn't as large. Of course, many were going to participate regardless, even if it did feel a bit early, but to say that the attitude towards Reddit was negative would be a notable understatement, as I won't get into the details that much, but the site was then recently under fire for various decisions by its users, such as the infamous changes towards third-party apps, which resulted in price increases that caused many useful programs to no longer function. And because of this, many believed that the event was really only being hosted to serve as a distraction, which would certainly affect how things play out later. One example would involve various messages towards Spez, the username of one of Reddit's co-founders and CEO, with many spelling out the phrase fspez. I obviously won't say the full thing, but this message will pop up a lot on the canvas, so curse warning I guess? But outside of that, things really began to start on June 23rd, when changes around Reddit began to be noticed, signifying that the event may begin soon. And because of this, many began their final preparations, including the great folks of the Bluey community, who have already been developing plans throughout the month on a Discord server titled the Healer House, the same place that was used to coordinate plans the previous year. Now of course, planning for an event like this was nothing new, as templates were obviously created last year as well, but with the previous experience and trials, it felt as if the community would be significantly more prepared. And in spite of the aggression towards Reddit itself, it seemed as if this event could be a tad bit more peaceful. As in the moments leading up to the event, multiple alliances and, dare I say, even friendships had already been established. One of these groups was the Peace Alliance, a large group that consisted of multiple communities who intended on maintaining a peaceful existence. And regarding Bluey's exception into the group, she was voted in with just about zero opposition, as all of the voters present either approved the decision, stayed neutral, or declined to vote on the matter. And with all of this, it seemed as if everything was ready to go, set to be executed when the event would start. But then, nothing happened. The days of June came and went, and the event never began, and as July creeped onward, it seemed as if the whole thing was a false alarm. Was this all some kind of prank? And at this point, many assumed that the event would just happen next year, or heck, maybe in a couple years, and perhaps even in 2027, creating another 5-year gap. But then, on July 19th, a short video was uploaded by Reddit, and something crazy was revealed. The event would be starting tomorrow. The time was 5:40 in the morning. At a time in which many were still sleeping, things at the Healer House had been ramping up, as with the expectations that the event would begin at 6, many had gathered in a voice chat to discuss final plans and strategies. And as anticipation grew, the atmosphere became tense. The clock showed 5:59, and 1 minute later, the time had finally arrived. Except nothing happened. Again, assuming technical difficulties, most continued to wait, but things didn't change. That was until 5 minutes later, when at 6:05, the event officially opened, and the chaos began. And if you're wondering how I felt about the beginning, well, I was actually still asleep at this time. Mainly because my sleep schedule is straight up atrocious. In fact, I'm feeling a bit tired right now, so I'm probably gonna go and get some shut-eye. And with that, I'll leave my friend Pugly to explain a little further.
Well, looks like I'm in charge now. So anyways, where were we at? Oh yeah, the part where we coordinated exact plans from before could finally be executed. Except right from the very start, things didn't go according to plan. As upon seeing the canvas, the coordinates were organized differently than last year's, with 0 to 0 starting at the center as opposed to the top left corner. This meant that the coordinates for the templates would have to be readjusted. However, after this fix was made, things could move on. And as the canvas began to fill up, time was of the essence, so construction moved quickly. Of course, similar to all previous creations, the first image began as a blue splotch. But even at this stage, problems would persist as the template would have to be altered due to the differences in the color. And Bluey herself would be turned into, well, a duck. And of course, the whole situation was an accident as users outside the community mistook the blue splotch for a duck, given a bill and everything. This creature would quickly be nicknamed Blucky and became one of the many inside jokes within the Bluey faction. However, as funny the situation was, it would need to be fixed eventually. And within a couple hours, Bluey and her sister Bingo would take form, followed by hours of readjusting the eyes, leading to some very wonky expressions. However, after this, and constant defense against one of the many attacks, including voids and a conflict with a chain of F-spez messages, furthered construction could commence. One of these projects included the creation of the banner for the R Bluey subreddit, but as the space has already been occupied, the Bluey community would either have to negotiate for the space or build somewhere else. Thankfully, however, a negotiation with the main occupant, a community for the game Factorio, agreed to be relocated with the Bluey faction providing assistance. After this, minor attacks and vandalism would occur, but for the most part, Bluey and Bingo and their banner would remain safe. And as nighttime approached, things would go relatively smooth, at least for the next couple of hours.
Oh, phew. That was a good nap. I had a dream about ice cream, there were rides, and anyways, what were we talking about?
Oh, I was just telling the audience about our place, the event with pixels and stuff.
Ah, I see. Anyways, I think I got enough sleep to handle the rest, but if you want to help out some more, you're more than welcome.
Well, I guess I got some time so I can tell some more stories.
Cool! Maybe we can both do a few scenes, like you do some and I'll do others and so forth?
Yeah, sure, I don't see why not.
Awesome! Anyways, where were we at? Let me just check my notes and look here and oh no. Bluey's getting attacked. During the final moments of the first day, and into the second, something really bad was happening. Or more specifically, about to happen. As according to inside reports, an attack from the SpongeBob AI server, a group of roughly 100,000 members, was about to invade the Bluey area, which understandably freaked out more than a few people, as the Bluey group, while large, would not be able to fend off such a large army. However, it would later be revealed that only a few people from this group were actually involved, and that the general server had no serious interest in taking the space, and as a result, damages weren't that serious and would quickly be restored. Also, with the available time, some attempts were made to conduct some other fixes, such as fixing the piece to better match the template, which varied in success, as I assume not everyone had the template and that some just assumed where colors were supposed to go. However, one project that was a success though, involved a heart with the image of the character Senko next door, showcasing the alliance between the two. Although the heart would be later removed, and then built again, and then removed. Apparently because some other users didn't realize it was actually supposed to be there. Outside of that though, Bluey herself would remain relatively safe, with one terrifying, albeit overblown fear of a potential nuke attack being the only major threat. And with the worries of imminent destruction not being a constant threat, more work was dedicated to helping others, which honestly is actually quite wholesome, especially with everything else going on. And even then, that's not to say that nothing was added to Bluey, as the background and characters would receive an upgrade, as Bluey and Bingo would get a better set of colors, making them more accurate to their appearances in the show, along with a new background that featured much more detail. Also, on the new background, something strange happened, or perhaps suspect if you will. Compared to day 2, things would be notably more interesting on day 3. To start, the server would make an attempt to help rebuild Super Bear, a character from the 3D platformer game Super Bear Adventure. This went on for about an hour, until a realization was made. the whole thing was built in the completely wrong area, and would have to be relocated, and built all over again. Oops. And to make matters even more difficult, the canvas would also expand again around this time, making the existing templates no longer useful. However, as a new template was created, maintenance would continue, along with some good old diplomacy and acts of friendship, which I have to admit is pretty fitting for the Bluey fandom. Or at least, most of it anyways. And while another attempt to help rebuild Super Bear didn't go as planned, the faction would help to defend a pride flag below Portugal, and try to help in defending Super Bear, providing some more help with the rebuild afterward. And on the subject of things being constantly removed and rebuilt, the Senko Heart would also be rebuilt around this time. However, in true r/place fashion, things wouldn't stay peaceful for long, as something truly shocking would happen. At around 935, the My Little Pony faction, an extremely close ally to the Bluey team, both figuratively and quite definitely literally, were suddenly replaced with a picture of Perry the Platypus? Now, of course, this was not the result of an attack by a surprisingly large Phineas and Ferb fanbase, but the work of course, another streamer, which the MLP faction has historically been one of the most frequent targets of, resulting in a calm, polite, please get out, we're destroying your entire existence, for the MLP community, and an extended background for our favorite colored dog, which also, interestingly enough, featured the Statue of Liberty, making that whole red, white, and bluey promo a bit more real, I guess. But despite what some would consider a nice upgrade, the allies of the MLP faction, of course including Bluey, were pretty shocked and concerned about the whole situation, to say the least. Because even though their main target was to remove the MLP community, nobody was really sure what would happen next, especially as the streamer threatened to attack other allies if the MLP faction fought back, eventually forcing them to relocate. And as if this wasn't enough, things would get even more intense, as members of the streamer's army were interested in talking with the Bluey faction, with one notably powerful member known as Reese serving as an ambassador, who was streaming the event themselves with thousands of viewers and potential supporters alone. And with notable Bluey member Jalen handling the conversation, things were really tense. It felt as if one wrong move, or even word, could result in Bluey's instant annihilation, and possibly even the destruction of everyone around her. And as if that wasn't stressful enough, allies such as the USA and Genshin had already chosen to side with them, mainly as a precaution to prevent their own destruction. However, in the end, and despite the risks involved, Jalen insisted that they would not help the large group, but not directly oppose them either, and the decision was made to stay neutral. And with that all said and done, the two would end the conversation, with Reese complimenting the Bluey artwork, and Jalen questioning his decision.
We leave here in no agreement, and I hope that nothing happens to your artwork, because it's really nice. Alright, thank you very much, bye bye.
Although when I spoke to Jalen himself, he said that the compliment was more of a, that's a nice place you got there, shame if it got destroyed in an instant, sort of threat than a genuine nice word. Also, the picture of Perry the Platypus would be promoted by Reddit's Twitter account, who seemingly had no clue about what actually went down, much to the dismay and celebration of various Twitter users. No, I am not ready to call it X. Anyways, after this intense moment, nothing severe would come out of it thankfully, and things would eventually lighten up, as a suggestive picture of a goblin doing a pose that, how do I even put this, wouldn't ever be seen in Bluey, was replaced by a picture of Bluey's street and house. Yes, believe it or not, that was a thing that actually happened. But the goblin was relocated to another place, so happy ending, I guess?
Compared to last year, the Bluey faction would gain a notably greater presence on the canvas thanks to its growing fanbase, and the fact that we weren't constantly drowning in attacks and competitors. And with this, various expansions and additions would occur, including the previously mentioned healer house and a new art piece that was set to be created. In order to determine an idea for this potential piece, a short competition would be held, with a picture of Bingo being chosen, featuring her peeking out of the earth, an obvious reference to the season 2 episode Sleepy Time. And unlike previous works, this image would be placed far away in a then recent expansion of the canvas, next to the new location of the MLP faction. After this, however, things would go relatively calm as the rest of the day remained business as usual, including more general maintenance, assistance to defend and support allies, and another attempt to rebuild Super Bear, twice. Unfortunately, neither succeeded, and it marked the final time attempts by the Bluey community. Interestingly though, there was an odd situation with Bingo, as some users attempted to write her name on the canvas, which was something not of the original plans, resulting in a short struggle between them and the users trying to clean up the image. On top of that, something a bit mysterious would occur, as while Bingo was being completed, a cross was being built to her left. Not being part of Bluey or the neighboring groups, it wasn't entirely sure who built it or its purpose, but as the factions remained neutral, no action was taken.
Leading up to the morning on the 5th day, many believed that the end of the event was coming soon, but regular activities continued, as assistance was provided to the USA and Transplace factions, as well as of course to the MLP faction, who was facing another large-scale attack. And despite some minor issues, it seemed as if everything was going somewhat smoothly, although the occasional mishap would happen once in a while, as throughout the day, chaos would continue to erupt across the canvas, but Bluey, Bingo, and their famous house would all remain relatively safe. And if anything, things were actually improving, as by this point, another addition had already been made, as by this time, further canvas expansions have occurred, with many new and large creations being made. One of the most notable of these included a very colorful set of letters, giving the previously mentioned Reddit CEO Spez a very colorful message. And inside of these letters, various factions would occupy the space, with most of them being flags of course, but also a few communities, with Bluey being one of them, who added a small pixelated figure of Muffin, which would later be followed by her sister Socks, parents Stripe and Trixie, and even other characters, such as Rusty, Mackenzie, and of course Jack. The picture itself would originally have a pink background, but this would later be changed to better fit the surrounding area. And with this, the event suddenly came to an abrupt end, as shortly after the completion of the pixelated characters, only white pixels could be placed, taking everyone by surprise. And with that, everything began to fade once again, just like before. Nah, I'm just kidding, because despite initial beliefs, things didn't end. The event was still running, and with this realization, a variety of many random things would occur. Bingo was partially burned by a dragon, although this was successfully repelled. Rushes to conduct some much needed general maintenance were held, and we even got a nice shout out from the streamer Grand Pooh Bear. On top of that, towards the end of the day, another final Bluey piece would be created, with a small picture of Bluey taking over a space on the taskbar, located at the bottom of the canvas. And if this image looks familiar, that's because it was based on the design used for the 2022 event, serving as a tribute to last year's accomplishment and a fitting piece for the end of the event, whenever that would happen anyways.
With the belief that the event would end sometime soon, preparations continued to be made as maintenance persisted, and the crews worked hard to defend from any potential attacks. But overall, alliances prevailed, and it seemed as if most were okay with Bluey's presence. Well, Most people anyways, as an attempt was made to take over Bluey's space on the taskbar, but was luckily repelled. And during this time, the Bluey community was even able to kind of split their forces, helping to defend the MLP faction. But as with any soon-to-come finale, one last surprise would occur, and a destructive one at that. At approximately 7 PM GMT, or roughly noon PST, Bluey's main piece would see a large attack as bots took over nearly the entire space. And with only hours left before the event's conclusion, things seemed dire. Because despite all of our alliances and achievements, the community would have to go without its main centerpiece. Except things thankfully didn't end this way, as shortly after the bots would leave, allowing the piece to be rebuilt. Bluey had been saved by the hands of Lady Luck once again, and of course, the many dedicated fans, tons of whom worked tirelessly to keep the art piece in excellent shape. And as the piece slowly made its way back together, the end was near. The group were officially in the final stretch. And with the colors changing, things could have ended there, but it didn't, as people got creative with it. Using the limited colors of white, gray, and black, the piece was converted to be grayscale, helping to preserve it for a little while longer. Also, for a brief moment, a message saying Jalen W was written, serving as a sign of gratitude from the community towards Jalen, who had contributed a lot to Bluey's presence. But just like with all good things, Bluey and all her additions, expansions, and allies couldn't last forever. Because shortly after, the other colors would be removed, and just like last year, everything would start slowly fading away in a sea of white pixels. But not without one last emotional send-off, with the stars aligning perfectly.
Whoa! As
the stream of random Bluey episodes everyone was watching decided to put on arguably the most emotional episode in the series, Sleepy Time. And man, to say it was emotional is an understatement, because as the episode played on with its powerful soundtrack and its extremely powerful messages.
Remember, I'll always be here for you, even if you can't see me.
We all watched our little piece of history slowly fade away as the music gave a final crescendo, giving us a perfect ending shared with everyone.
Now, I'm kind of embarrassed to admit this, but compared to last year, I was not as involved with this event. Not necessarily out of a lack of interest, but mainly because I was busy with other projects and going on vacation, and as a result, I had to get help from a lot of different people, all of whom did a fantastic job recalling the events. And in all honesty, this video was something I had been very reluctant to do, considering my part, or rather lack thereof. But now that I've learned more, and given more thought to it, the collaborative nature actually complements the actual events well, because upon hearing the summary of it, I thought it was kinda boring compared to last year, as there wasn't as much drama, heated arguments, or struggles to survive. But in all honesty, is that really a bad thing? After all, with the increased presence, a lot of other things did happen. We got to participate in massive alliances, make friendships with other fandoms, and create tons of new artwork that, within last year's struggles, would have been considered impossible. A true follow-up to last year's events. And of course, I couldn't leave this video without giving a final shout out to a couple, or rather, a few people. Once again, special thanks to Jalen, Vex, Gigi, xplorer, Theheroofdeath, Helgy, Highr, and Corgi for making some amazing contributions to the event itself, and helping me out greatly by making a just amazing documentation of what happened. Also, I want to give some shoutouts to users Dolfino and Corgi. who helped answer some questions I had about the event, making some confusing details much more clear. And finally, a great shout out to Pugly, who is just an all-around, amazing, super nice guy. He has his own YouTube channel with Bluey content, as I'm sure most of you already know, but he's the one who approached me with the idea, voiced some scenes throughout this video, and even helped me edit some parts. So massive kudos to him.
I deeply appreciate the sentiments, and I'm frankly honored to be able to do this collaboration in general. Not only have I been able to make a new friend, which of course is BB here, it feels really special to be able to do this even in a symbolic sense. Seen as without collaboration with all our factions and allies, none of this would have been possible, so thank you for having me and making this event just a little bit more special than it already was for me.
And with that, we have reached the conclusion of another amazing, chaotic, and dare I say, emotional, pixelated Bluey adventure. I hope y'all enjoyed this crazy long video, and once again, a special shout out to everyone who helped make this possible. Without their amazing work, this video would have probably been impossible for me to finish, at least in a reasonable time. But with that said, my name's Hideaki, and both of us, me and Pugly, will be signing out. Have a great day everyone, and we'll see you soon. Goodbye everyone, and don't forget, please, take care of yourself. You deserve it.